So, a lot of times when people are thinking about buying land, they don't even know where to start or what questions they should have. So, I wanted to share some questions that I get pretty regularly from my clients who are thinking about land investing. Number one, what are you going to do with the land? A lot of times people have this vision that maybe they want to build a home, or perhaps they just want some land to go camping and be in the outdoors with their friends and family. Or other times people have a dream of creating a farm, having some livestock, planting vegetables. There's so many different things that you can do once you own land. So I think the first question that people kind of come to me with is, what can they do with the land, and does it align with what their vision is for what they want to do with the land once they own it? What is the chain of title? So chain of title really shows who has owned a property before you've purchased it. And why is it important to know who's owned it? The reason why it's important to understand chain of title is because when someone sells the property, you want to make sure that every person who is on that title has agreed to selling it. So if there was like a husband and a wife who owned the property and one of them passed away, you want to make sure that, the person who is selling the property, the one who is still alive, actually has the authority to sell it. Was there a death certificate that was recorded? Did he have rights of survivorship to inherit all of her ownership in the property? So when you're looking at chain of title, it just shows, did everyone who had the authority to sell the property, did they have a say in the sale? And those are the things that we look at when we are purchasing land. We check to make sure that the chain of title has been reviewed. We make sure that the title is free and clear and that there's no liens and encumbrances on the property. That means that when you're inheriting the property, if you're buying the property, you're not going to be seeing like some unexpected bill that's going to be coming in the mail saying, hey, because you bought this property, you also owe X amount of money. So those are some of the things that we look at when we are reviewing the chain of title. Structures. When you're looking at land to purchase, one of the things that you should consider looking at is whether or not there's any structures on the property, any improvements. So that could be like a shed, it could be a building, a house, a stable, a barn. You want to find out from the county, are there any structures on this raw land? And the reason it's important is you want to see, hey, was this structure even permitted? Because if it wasn't permitted, you may have to take it down. So if you see like, oh, I'm going to buy this raw vacant land because it came with this house on it, you have to ask yourself, hey, was this house even permitted? Is it allowed to be there? And if it's not, you may have to get it removed. So you don't want to end up buying a property with a structure that you weren't expecting and then find out that, hey, it needs to be taken down. So one of the things that we look at is just make sure that, hey, no structures on the property, and then we look and see if there was any improvements on it. So that's a good way to start. Property back taxes. One of the questions that we ask when we are looking to buy land is whether or not a property has any overdue property taxes. Sometimes, life gets busy. We have owners of properties who have land and they just don't get around to paying their past due property taxes. So this is a question that we ask of the sellers when we purchase land for our investment portfolio. And we also follow it up by contacting the county. We talk to the treasurer's office to make sure that, hey, the property that we're about to buy doesn't have any back taxes. If there are back taxes that are owed, that's something that we would take into account when purchasing the land. There are times where we've paid off overdue property taxes for sellers when we're buying the property, so they can, have peace of mind that they're selling their land and they're not going to owe anything. And we have peace of mind knowing like, hey, we've agreed to this price, we'll pay off your back taxes, we'll buy your land. So checking to see if there's any past due property taxes is a good thing to look at when you're thinking about buying land. The other thing that's related to property taxes that you want to know too is how much do you have to pay annually for property taxes? The good news is on most raw and vacant land where there's no structures on it, in many of the states that we invest in, the property taxes are very low, a lot of times less than $100 for the whole entire year. And in some states, they're less than $30. So make sure that you ask and find out, hey, how much are the annual property taxes for the land that you're thinking about investing in? Zoning. When you are thinking about purchasing a property, one of the questions that you might want to consider asking is, what is this property zoned as? Is this property zoned as residential, agricultural? Is it just undeveloped land with unrestricted zoning? These are great questions to ask because it will tell you what you can do with a property once you own it. If it's zoned for residential, that means that you can build a house on it. There are going to be rules as to how high or how big you can build the house, but it's good to know if you want to build a house on it, you want to know, is this zoning allow for you to do that? The other type of zoning we often see is agricultural zoning or agricultural general, which means that you could have a farm there. You could raise livestock, grow vegetables, and you can also build a house on it. Many times people are looking to buy land and they actually don't want to build anything on it. They just want to have land for recreational purposes. They want to bring out their ATVs, or maybe they have some dirt bikes that they want to ride around on. They want to go camping for a couple weeks out of the year on their own land. So looking at the zoning is a really great way to find out if the property that you're interested in is going to meet your needs. Access. It's important to look at access when you are buying land. And there's two types of access that I'm going to talk about. The first one is road access. Ideally, a lot of people really like the idea of having a property that has frontage road access, direct access to a road, so they can just turn off and go to their property. There are other people who want a little bit more privacy and they actually don't want to be on the main road. They may have something else which is called legal access. And what that means is they have a property and they have to walk or drive through another person's property to get to their lot. And why would anyone do that? Sometimes people don't want to be on the main road. They don't want to hear other cars coming by. They just want a little bit more seclusion, privacy. And that's the reason why they're buying land to begin with. So if you are looking for a property where you don't want road access, it's important to see if you have legal access. And you'll check this by looking at the properties around you to see, hey, is there an easement that allows me to go from the main road through my neighbor's property onto my property? And if that easement or access is there, then yes, you do have legal access to your property and you still have the privacy that you're looking for as well. Utilities. This is another question that comes up very often. When you're looking to buy land, one of the things you want to find out is, hey, is there any utilities on the property? For most of the properties that we own, we actually do not have any utilities on them at all, and that's intentional. We do look for properties that are close to utilities. So if you see like an electrical pole, or if you know like, hey, there might be a community well nearby, or you see other houses or neighbors that are not too far away, it kind of gives you a clue that this area is livable. Many times what we'll do is we'll call the county and kind of find out, hey, even though there's no utilities, no electrical poles on our property, how far is the nearest electrical pole if we decided we wanted to put in electricity? Or, a lot of people are opting to live off grid, where their plan is to put solar on their land and to live without being connected to public utilities. So looking at utilities to see what your options are is a great thing to consider when buying land if you want to live on the property. If you decide you just want the land just to park your RV or for storage, then electricity is probably not a big deal for you. Does land lose value? One of the reasons why people are really interested in investing in land is because they are not making any more of it. This resource is getting more and more scarce every single year. There's so many big cities where, people are living and communities have developed. So it's actually getting harder and harder to find raw and vacant land for you to live on. So this is an asset. This is a property that is going to get more rare. And as a result, many people think that it will increase in value in the future because you cannot make more of it. What is a down payment? A lot of times people throw around this term of down payment, but people don't really explain what it means. A down payment is just a small portion of the overall price of the property that you are thinking about buying. And the down payment is the amount that you submit when you're buying a property to reserve it. It's not something that gets wasted. It actually gets applied to the total purchase price of your property. So you're paying it in advance and it's being used to take down the total price that you owe on the property. So the larger the down payment you have, essentially you can have smaller monthly payments, or you could pay off the property sooner if you decide to increase your down payment. If you want to have a lower down payment, that's okay too. It just means that you may be making payments over a longer period of time before you'll pay off your property. So that's what a down payment is. So one of the questions that people ask about owning land is whether or not they have to go to the bank and apply for a loan. Most banks do not want to give a loan out for land because the property, it costs so much less than the other loans that they are approving. If the property is more than $50,000 or $100,000, those are the only opportunities where you could go to a bank and potentially ask for a loan. So what do you do with properties of land that costs less than $50,000? You might have an option to buy land if you find someone who is willing to do owner financing. Owner financing is when the owner of the property is willing to allow you to make monthly payments on the property until you have it fully paid off and then you own it. So owner financing is a great option for people who are looking to buy raw, vacant land, who do not want to go to the bank, who don't want to fill out long forms and try to get approved, or if you're worried about, whether or not you have good or bad credit. If you work with someone who is doing owner financing for land, it makes it so much easier for you when you are purchasing land. So those are the questions that I wanted to review today. If you have any more questions about land, about owning land, about acquiring land, or deciding where is the best place for you to pick a property that meets your goals, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you identify a couple of properties, a couple areas that you might like, and help you with your land investing journey.